Welcome to the Daily Insider here on Vegas Insider. I am Kevin Rodgers for Friday, January 21st, 2022, 2022, however you want to say it. And very excited today. We got Brian Edwards on the show. We're going to talk NFL playoffs, the 4 divisional games, as well as hit on the main bout at UFC 270 tomorrow in Anaheim, as well as NBA and some college basketball with Brian. So we'll talk about all of that with him coming up in just a moment. Before we get to Brian, though, BetMGM, they're the king of sports books, and they are now live in New York. So if you live up in the Empire State, you can use BetMGM as one of your betting options, and you can use the exclusive bonus code VIBONUS in New York for the $1,000 risk-free first bet. Also, BetMGM offers a welcome bonus for casino and sportsbook new users. Enter the bonus code VIBONUS for a $25 no deposit free casino game, plus a $100 or 100% deposit match up to $1,000. Enter VIBONUS on the BetMGM Sportsbook app to receive a $1,000 risk-free bet for your first wager. And also, BetMGM special offer, bet $20 to win $100 in any sport or game, regardless of your wager's outcome. And just remember the bonus code VIBONUS when you're ready to sign up and play at BetMGM. They are the king of sports books. All right, let's bring him on. Brian Edwards, the great Gator, joining us here on the Daily Insider. Brian, good to talk to you again. And before we look at the divisional playoff games for this weekend, what were your thoughts to, finally wrap up wild card weekend last weekend?
Oh, it was a rough weekend for my picks. The Raiders, I thought they outplayed the Bengals 385 to 300 total yards, 23 to 18 and first downs, but just too many sustained drives where they only got field goals, and I just didn't think they gave Josh Jacobs the ball enough, man. Feed that dude. So Fortunately, Tampa Bay was my biggest play and had them in the first quarter and first half, so that kind of saved me. But if there's other takeaways, I think we had some injuries. Cincinnati's defensive front, two backup defensive tackles are questionable. Hendrickson, who had 14 sacks in the regular season, had that huge forced fumble early in the game last week. He got a concussion, had to leave the game. Now, it sounds like he's got a pretty good chance at playing, but Ojanobi is lost for the season, starting defensive tackle who had 7 sacks in the regular season. So those injuries hurt the Bengals. And then Tristan Wirfs for the Bucs, the outstanding offensive tackle. It's not sounding good for him to be able to go against the Rams' formidable defensive front. So those are just a couple of takeaways. Outside of that, I mean, the Rams look great. The Rams look great. Oh, and the Bills and KC look great. And I don't want, as we'll get to that game, I don't want anything to do with that side. I don't want to go against either one of those freight trains, as both teams seem to be in peak form. I do have a play on the total that I'm sure we'll get to.
Which game out of the 4 are you looking forward to the most?
Well, my biggest play is going to be Tampa Bay, so I'll go with the Bucs. Short week for the Rams, played Monday night, and now got to fly across the country. The Bucs 8-1 straight up, 7-2 against the spread at home. And look, the Rams look great, but now that Arizona team was minus DeAndre Hopkins. They limped down the stretch, 1-4 record, but straight up and against the spread. Their last 5 regular season games. The Bucs are going to get a boost from Leonard Fournette's return. And, I think they can kind of scheme up the, not having Wirfs, assuming they don't have him, by, not putting Brady back in the pocket too long, a lot of quick passes, utilize those tight ends. And he's got 2 really good ones in Gronk and OJ Howard. And the Bucs is my favorite pick of the weekend.
Yeah, something, it's just very interesting because it's the first time we're seeing a team play Monday night in the wild card round, and especially LA now going cross country to Tampa, that they're not going to Dallas, they're not going to San Francisco or Seattle, that they're making this long trip. And it's also a revenge spot, Brian, for the Buccaneers after they lost to the Rams. And what's funny is, I don't know if you remember this, but I'm going to ask you the trivia question anyway. You remember who scored a long touchdown in that first meeting between the Rams and the Buccaneers? Who's no longer on the Rams? It's a good one.
Deshaun Jackson.
That was when Sean McVay raced him down the sidelines. But that's just so funny that Deshaun Jackson scored a touchdown in that game. He's no longer with the Rams. What do you think about Odell Beckham's contribution so far and him, in a sense, revitalizing his career now with LA?
Definitely a career renaissance. I kind of thought it was a bad move to get him just because he's been, seemingly a locker room cancer late in his Giants tenure and certainly during his Browns stay. But, man, career renaissance. He looks fantastic. Got to give McVay and Stafford a lot of credit on that. Probably a lot to McVay and the coaching because they got him involved right from the get-go. From game one. He had a touchdown catch in that first game, right? If I
believe so.
Yeah. So, just got him involved. And, with a guy like that, these mercurial diva wide receivers, you get them happy at first and maybe they'll stay happy and not ruffle feathers. And that's what they've done. And now his unbelievable talents are coming out once again.
So we still have the possibility of a Buccaneers-Packers NFC championship. Just both the home teams have to win. So let's go to tomorrow night and San Francisco with that win over Dallas, in which the Niners, it was so funny, Brian. It's like the Niners dominated, but still kept the door open for Dallas. That they were playing so well, they were converting all these third downs. Dallas defense couldn't get off the field. But yet Robbie Gould had a couple long field goals. Except for that first San Francisco drive, it felt like the Cowboys were still hanging around, but then everything would happen at the end when they ran out of time. But do you think San Francisco can carry this now to Green Bay, who they lost to by 2 at home earlier this season? Packers perfect at home. Revenge spot for the Packers from the NFC Championship a few years ago. What do you think about this? You think San Francisco can keep this up or Green Bay will knock them out?
That interception that just got Dallas back in the game so quickly by Jimmy G was just inconceivable, man. What in the hell was he doing? And that kind of thing has to scare you if you're back in the Niners. Like, now the Niners are in great form, and so I'm not going to knock anybody for, wanting to play them plus 5.5. Right now, I haven't played anything on this game, but gun to my head, I would have to go Green Bay. Just, with the cold weather being a factor and just such an enormous advantage with Aaron Rodgers over Jimmy G. Now, there are advantages San Fran has in this game and, feed the rock to Deebo Samuel. He's such a stud. And, if you're back in the Packers, you got to be concerned about him. But I think at the end of the day, it's Packers or pass to me. And, I don't really – when I do NFL teasers, it's usually home favorites between 6 and 8.5 points. So I think Green Bay is a great tease team. I don't know that I like anybody else in a teaser though this weekend. So, I don't know if our listeners, if you're doing a money line parlay and you got some other games you like, I wouldn't be against a money line parlay with Titans, Green Bay, and Tampa Bay. I wouldn't be against that. I think that would get about not quite plus 300, but plus like around plus 250, if I'm not mistaken.
Just pretty amazing that Aaron Rodgers has not been to a Super Bowl since 2010, and he's lost 4 NFC championships, I should say, since then. And again, you have to win this game to get to the NFC championship. But what does that say about Aaron Rodgers, though? That 4 times, he's elite, he's a Hall of Famer, but this guy hasn't won a Super Bowl in over 10 seasons. Been to a Super Bowl in over 10 seasons, much less won one.
Is he 1 for 1 on Super Bowls, or did he go to a second one? I can't.
No, he only went to the one against the Steelers, and that was it.
Beat the Steelers. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. He, in my mind, is definitely, without question, easily a top 10 quarterback ever. But if you start to get in that top 5 conversation, he's not ahead of, obviously, the GOAT, Brady. He's not ahead of Montana. He's not ahead of probably not ahead of Peyton Manning either. And, I would take him over Big Ben, but, Big Ben's been to, 3 Super Bowls? No, has he been to 4 Super Bowls and won 2? He beat Arizona and Seattle.
And they lost to
Green Bay.
Yeah.
Did he not go to a 4th? Okay, my bad.
I think it was 3.
Yeah. So, yeah, if he wants to do, cement without a doubt, I'm in the top 5 quarterbacks ever. I think he probably needs to get back to another Super Bowl.
Because I'm looking at these numbers, and again, this is an unfair thing of what we do. We put all the blame on the quarterback. No one else gets the blame, just the quarterback. But in 4 of those games, and again, let's go back to 2014, they blew the Seattle game in overtime. That one they blew. There's no question about that. They got run out by the Falcons. Remember that in 16?
Oh, do I remember it, K-Raj? Of course I remember that ass beating.
They lost by 17 at San Francisco 2 years ago. And last year they were getting handled by Tampa Bay before making the comeback, and then the whole LaFleur thing where he didn't run it on 3rd down or whatever the case was. But or they kicked the field goal.
Right. It was a 4th down and I want to say less than 4 yards, or it was like 4th and 4 or fewer, and they kicked the field goal.
Right. But I'm saying, but in the last 3 NFC championships, again, which is irrelevant to this conversation, but just in general, that 3 of them, they were down big in a lot of those games. I mean, the Tampa Bay game was the one they kind of had a shot at winning, but the other 2, they had no shot at winning.
Yeah, and like you prefaced that, it wasn't necessarily all on him, but yeah, at the end of the day, this is how we judge quarterbacks, and looking back at their careers as a whole. And yeah, I don't think there's any doubt he needs to get to another Super Bowl to, without a doubt, be considered, without any debate, a top 5 quarterback ever. I mean, at least get to one, maybe even win one or another one.
Right. Now, the game before that, we'll get to Bills Chiefs in a second. So Bengals Titans. You know what, Brian? It's like, does Tennessee seem too easy laying 3.5? Derrick Henry's back. We don't know what kind of shape he's in. We don't know. He's been gone for a few months now, so we don't know what shape he's in. We know he's still dominant as a running back. But Joe Burrow, he is definitely an up-and-comer in this league. He's going to be an elite quarterback one of these days. He's now getting to that level. Ryan Tannehill, now he's a playoff veteran. Last few years, Tennessee's won some big games in the playoffs. But do you trust Cincinnati here taking the points? Do you trust Tennessee? I feel like this one, it's like it seems too easy and Tennessee could blow them out, but also I don't want to get on the Titans. It's a really tough one. I'm still battling which way I want to go.
I'm on the Titans. I think the defensive line injuries, I think that is a big deal. And look, I don't go against Joe Burrow very much. And, I'll take it further than you. He's already an elite quarterback. He's definitely a top 10 quarterback. And this time next year, we might be talking about him being a top 5 quarterback, which I said at the start of his rookie year, that I said he'll be in a top 5 quarterback, within 2 or 3 years. He is so good, and they definitely have a shot with him. And his chemistry with Jamar Chase makes them very, very dangerous. Mixon's a hell of a running back. But, I mean, they got outplayed last week by Vegas and these D-line injuries. And, the open date isn't necessarily always a great thing, but I think it's a good thing for the Titans in that it gave Derrick Henry more rest. Now, I think they'll have him on a pitch count, so to speak. I'll be shocked if he gets more than 12 to 15 touches. It's definitely not going to be a vintage Derrick Henry 25 to 30 totes in this game. But, with the way Julio is so, never healthy these days, it's got to help him to get, a week of rest. And even A.J. Brown, who had missed a month or so, I know he's back for the last 3 regular season games and looked to be close to 100%. You would imagine the extra week helps him too. So I think in this scenario, it helps the Titans. I mean, I got them at -3 early in the week. I mean, that 2.5 was right there laying there for us on Sunday night and even into Monday morning a little bit at some places. I'm okay with it at 3.5. And by the way, I'm going to have a little Titans -2.5 in the first half and a little on the Bucks -1 in the first half as well. If you can't buy it to 3 at, -130 or less, I don't know that I'd be paying -135 or more to get it to 3. But again, if you can get it at -130 or less, I'd buy it to that key number of 3. but I think the Titans get it done. 7-2 straight up, 6-3 against the spread at home, and have wins over Buffalo and Kansas City, who could be on deck, assuming they get past Joe Burrow and company.
So let's transition to that before Bills Chiefs. If Tennessee beats Cincinnati, do you think they have a shot to make it to the Super Bowl, that they have the game at home in the AFC Championship, or the Bills or the Chiefs, they're just too good for them?
Well, let's see how the games go. How does Derrick Henry look? Does he get out unscathed? How much of a war are Buffalo and Kansas City going to be in? Of course, they've got a shot. They've already beaten both teams in their house. Didn't they beat Buffalo at home last year too, if I'm not mistaken? They will have a shot. But to the Buffalo Kansas City game, did you want me to go ahead and go there with my thought?
Yeah, let's do it. Why not?
Right. I'm not putting a penny on the side for this game, because who knows, man. I think they're both in great form. Kansas City's got revenge mode from that 38-20 loss. I know it's a high total. Anytime you've got an NFL total in the mid-50s, you get a couple of sustained drives and then field goal attempts, you could be in trouble quick. But I think over is the way to go. I mean, it was 38-20 in the regular season for 58 combined. The over's hitting 6 in a row for Kansas City. Now, only 4 of those would have gone over 54. They had 4 that went to 63, 65, 62, and 57 combined. But KC's offense is in its best form of the year. The last 6 games, the Chiefs have scored 48, 34, 36, 31, 28, and 42. And Buffalo's off that 47-point outburst. And against a Bill Belichick postseason defensive plan and a New England defense that in 17 regular season games only gave up 28 or more 4 times. And they dropped 47 on them. And I think they didn't punt the whole game, right?
Who was that? The Bills? No, I don't think they did.
Yeah, I don't think they punted the whole game, which I wouldn't be shocked if that's the first time that's ever happened to Belichick. So I'm going to go with the over, a high number, but it's going to be cold. But I looked at the weather.com. The wind's not going to be bad. It's not going to be like Lambeau cold. I think the low was 32, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think weather's going to have an impact. I like it over 54.
The only thing that concerns me here, Brian, and I get the Chiefs, they turned it on. They had a lull early in the season. Their defense was shredded, and then all of a sudden the defense had great numbers for a while. But, I look at what they did down the stretch. They beat Pittsburgh twice, and the Steelers, questionable playoff team, probably shouldn't have got in. They had a lot of things go their way. They really handled Vegas. Vegas, another fringe playoff team. Denver, they beat Dallas 19-9. They beat Green Bay without Aaron Rodgers.
The Cowgirls suck.
Yes. I don't know, man. I just don't.
No, I see. So you sound like you like Buffalo. Yeah, I wouldn't want to.
I do like Buffalo. I think, and this sounds really kind of corny, but I feel like this is their shot, man. Like they've already won at Kansas City once this year, so they've gotten over that hurdle, and like this is their time. I mean, again, the Chiefs, laying 1.5, that they've been so dominant at home. They've been in the Super Bowl the last 2 years. It just says something to me, that Buffalo could be the look this week.
It seems like the books want you to take Kansas City for sure. But like I said, I don't want to go against either one of these teams right now.
Let's transition. I want to talk a few other things past the NFL. Let's look at some NBA tonight. The Hawks and the Heat, they meet up in Atlanta, and the Hawks were absolutely horrible as a favorite for a long time. They were down to Minnesota a few nights ago, and they came back and won. But the Hawks haven't had a lot of luck with the Heat. They've lost twice to them already. Atlanta laying 1.5 tonight back at home. First, before I get to the game, are the Hawks the biggest disappointment in the NBA this year?
No doubt about it.
Okay.
Easily, in my mind.
Fair. But on the flip side, last year, them beating Philadelphia in the second round, they took Milwaukee, they took them far in the Eastern Conference Finals. Do you think that maybe the Hawks were a one-hit wonder, that we shouldn't say greatest or biggest disappointment, because they're not as good as we thought they were? They're a good team in the East, but they're not part of that Bucks Nets, top of that of the East.
No, I'm not gonna say that, because look, they were, if I'm remembering right, they were 14-22 last year. I know we're a little beyond that point in the regular season right now, but and then they turned it on. And a lot of that, they were missing multiple players. I mean, Gallinari, Bogdanovich, DeAndre Hunter all missed a ton of time late last year, and they were doing it, often without 2 or 3 starters. And then DeAndre Hunter, only played in the Knicks series last year. And I mean, you can make the argument if Trae Young doesn't get hurt, they beat Milwaukee in that series, and Milwaukee ended up beating Phoenix. So yeah, they're the biggest disappointment, but I don't, think that they were a one-hit wonder last year. And obviously, I'm a lifelong suffering Hawks fan, so maybe this is wishful thinking, but I think they might have turned the corner the other night. They didn't come out of halftime until like 30 seconds left on the clock for the Milwaukee game. And the sideline reporter for the Hawks was talking about how Nate McMillan, told the sideline reporter he was chewing their ass pretty good. And they were down double digits in that game. They rally and they win against the Bucks. And then they're down double digits again against Minnesota the other night. And they rally and they win by double digits. And I'm now, so with Tyler Hero and Kyle Lowry out tonight, this is kind of a prove it game. Are they back? Have they turned the corner? And they're hopeful that they'll get Clint Capella back tonight. But I like them tonight, even if they don't, because Okongwu is, man, he had that offseason shoulder surgery and really couldn't work on his game during the offseason. He was playing great in the playoffs. He was only getting like 8 to 12 minutes a game. But, man, Okongwu is a monster, dude. And he's a better rim protector than Capella. I know Capella is third in the NBA in rebounding, but he hasn't really been 100% this year. This latest thing, he's missed 4 or 5 games as an ankle. But he participated in shoot around this morning. It's going to be a game time decision. Now, Gallinari is going to be a game time decision, but that's just Achilles soreness. I think he'll probably be able to go. And, Hero, 20.7 points per game, 4.9 rebounds, 4.0 assists. And Lowry, 13.4 and 8.3 assists. Those are big absences for Miami. So I like Atlanta tonight at home on a Friday. Got, that double revenge from losing to Miami already this year. I think the Hawks are going to get it done tonight. Now, if they get beat tonight and they get beat soundly, forget all that stuff I just said about them turning the corner.
Listen, they had 5 straight losses, and as you mentioned, down double digits to the Bucks. And they came back and won, down double digits to Minnesota. Minnesota had 2 they got lucky to beat the Knicks tonight because they were big in that game and almost blew it. But that is impressive what Atlanta did in the second half of the last 2 games. They put up, 45 against Minnesota in the third?
Yeah, I think it was 45-20 in the third.
45-20, they outscored them in the third quarter of that game. So, again, say turning the corner, it's not done yet for the Hawks. I mean, again, when you have a few extra playoff spots with the play-in tournament that, you're not dead yet.
Whoa. If they turn the corner, they're going to get hot, and they'll end up in the 6th, 7th spot, I think.
You have the Cleveland Cavaliers that are playing very well.
Sure.
Don't sleep on them. Don't sleep on the Cavs.
So let me ask you this about the Cavs.
Yeah.
Did they get rid of Colin Sexton after this year? Because, I'm not, I forget what their record was when he got hurt, but they're clearly not missing him. And he is that guard that is a high volume shooter, doesn't have many assists. I just wonder what his future is because they've been one of the best teams in the East without him.
Can I just say this to you, Brian? I'm going to take you a step further than that. Do they not miss John Beilein? Think about that. They hired John Beilein. Total disaster. And then JB Bickerstaff, he just gets elevated. A guy that he was with the Rockets and kind of bounced around interim coach, got the opportunity. That John Beilein was holding them back. That was a total dumpster fire when he went to the Cavs.
Yeah. And, Garland's a year older. I mean, he only played 5 games at Vandy and then, was one and done. So, I mean, the more experience he gets, the better he gets. But Mobley is, and Kevin Love's playing pretty good. I mean, obviously not Kevin big role, but, I mean, they're really solid. They got a lot of quality.
And they got Markkanen too. They got him as well. I mean, he's a nice player. And then they got Evan Mobley.
Mobley is the rookie that has been extremely impressive.
Now let's have this seamless transition to the Big Ten. Why not? Because that's what we do here. See, I do like these Friday night games. The Big Ten's
I love Friday night games.
It's good because you used to have just like Ivy League and the Metro, and that was it. Now
Right.
at least you got some decent teams playing. So you got Michigan State and Wisconsin tonight in Madison. Sparty coming off a 2-point loss to Northwestern. Izzo. But Wisconsin, though, they've caught fire, though. They have caught fire. They've won, 7 in a row. They beat Ohio State. They beat Northwestern. They beat Iowa. So your thoughts here on this one? The Badgers a short favorite at home.
I love how Wisconsin's playing. I've had them the last 3 games. Northwestern made it a little interesting the other night, and I really needed Wisconsin bad, and they came through for me. They've won 7 in a row. They've covered 5 in a row. And, good wins too, man. At Purdue, at Northwestern, home wins over Iowa and Ohio State by 9 and 10 points respectively. Now, Michigan State was hot before that loss to Northwestern. They'd won 9 in a row, but and this is more just backing Wisconsin. It's not fading Sparty, but I'm pretty confident if we go back and look, the mid to late January of Izzo's teams, at least in 3 or 4 of the last 5 or 6 years, they've had a little mid to late January funk where they've lost 3, 4 in a row and some baffling losses in there. Lost to Nebraska at home a couple times in the last 3 or 4 years at 10 miles. And again, I'm backing Wisconsin. I'm not fading Sparty, but that was a head scratcher of a loss to Northwestern at home. I know Northwestern got some pretty good wins in non-conference, but Sparty should not be losing at home to Northwestern. And this is kind of a different Wisconsin team. Greg Gard's teams are usually grind it out, half court, play great defense. They've also hit 7 overs in a row to coincide with the 7-game winning streak. I lean to the over, but I'm probably going to stay away. I just think you play Wisconsin here. And I liked them at -4 late last night, and now we can get them at 3.
So we'll keep an eye on that game, 9 o'clock this evening in Madison. And Brian, finally, UFC tomorrow night in Anaheim at the Honda Center. And the headline fight, Ngannou and Gane, and heavyweight bout. Your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, the odds just kind of made up my mind for me on this one. And, man, it's really rare that I don't have a lot of opinions on a pay-per-view, but I really don't. I mean, a couple of the fighters that I like they're just too heavily favored. And but, in the months leading up to this bout, it was pick'em. And this week, I don't know if it was Monday or Tuesday, but Gane shot up to a -150 favorite. And look, he is better conditioned. He's got a better overall set of skills, but the skill that Ngannou has, and for people that aren't that into MMA, I mean his one punch knockout power, I guess I would compare to Mike Tyson in his prime or Deontay Wilder coming up. Like, that's how scary powerful he is. And, that negates everything that Gane has, and Gane is about as good a big guy heavyweight in terms of his movement and his distance and all that. But he's going to have to get in harm's way of Ngannou. And this guy's just been rolling through people. I mean, Stipe is the only person to get out of the first round on him in like 3+ years. I got to go with Ngannou at +130, and just hope that he gets him in the first round of the second, because if it gets to the third, Gane's going to win this fight.
Brian Edwards, you can find him on Twitter at VegasBEdwards. Also find his picks on Vegas Insider for the NBA, for college basketball, football, and NFL as well.
And K-Raj, let me cut you off there. Sorry. Yeah. I also like the under on this fight, under 2.5 rounds at -125, because I think Ngannou's going to get him in the first or the second. But if he doesn't, I mean, Gane can take him out too. And especially if we get to, late second or early third, I think Ngannou will start to gas. And, under 2.5, we've got till halfway through the third round. So, if Ngannou doesn't get him out of there early, which I think he will, Gone could certainly finish him before the midway mark of round 3. So it's the Ngannou play is not a huge opinion either. But I'm not against getting a little under as well.
Brian Edwards, we appreciate your time as always, and best of luck with your plays, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, K-Raj. Have a good one.
All right, you too. There is Brian Edwards, and always good to have him on to discuss a myriad of topics around the sports betting world. We're going to take a look at the NBA card coming up in just a moment and our look around. But before we do, that GOAT, he's running around New York. He's wearing that crown. He's taunting the people saying, you want to take it from me? Well, you got to go to DraftKings.com first before you can do that and score your seat to the Tournament of Champions. That's what he's saying, that I'm the man right now, and you're just have to take that crown from me. But the way you can do that is go to DraftKings.com. The DraftKings Championship Series is the ultimate competition of contest winners from daily fantasy sports, sportsbook, and casino, the one and only place you can compete in the king of competitions. The best of the best in each domain will compete for series supremacy in their own domain's Tournament of Champions. They'll have one goal in mind: win the ultimate crown and earn the title of the greatest of all time, the GOAT. That's right, DraftKings is now legal in New York, and you can wear that crown proudly. He's got it. It's not glued to his head necessarily, but he's not going to give it up just for you. You got to go to DraftKings.com right now and go try to be the GOAT. Score your seats to the Tournament of Champions, the DraftKings Championship Series. Again, you can check it out at DraftKings.com. All right. Let's look at some of the NBA for tonight, or actually not some of it, but all of it, because that's what we do here. We don't just look at some of it. Let's look at our night ahead, and tonight's NBA card. We'll start with the Thunder and the Hornets. They meet up in Charlotte, and the Hornets, first of all, they've been a good favorite this season until they got tripped up by Orlando last Friday night at home. But coming off 2 good road wins at New York and at Boston, and the Hornets right now on a 5-1 under run. The Thunder, meanwhile, they have dropped 3 in a row. They've lost 8 of 9. And they still have been a very good ATS team this year, 28-15-1. Charlotte's 28-17 against the spread. I think we kind of forget about that. But the Thunder, though, they've lost 3 straight. 2 of those defeats coming by 5 or less. They were blown out by San Antonio back on Wednesday night. That game stayed under the total because you had a 32-point fourth quarter. But Oklahoma City, though, they are on the front end of a back-to-back. They'll be in Cleveland tomorrow, and then that'll wrap up their road trip. But Charlotte, though, we'll see if they fall back a little bit here off 2 big road wins over the Knicks and against the Celtics. Now, the Lakers, they head east, and they had a bit of a disastrous collapse against Indiana. And speaking of which, really quick on the Pacers, in case you missed it last night, they were down a lot of their stars. I mean, we call them stars. Some of their top players, Sabonis, Brogdon, LeVert, a lot of them were hurt. And Indiana still went to Golden State and won outright as 16-point underdogs. So congratulations to them. So the Pacers finished up that back-to-back set, beating the Lakers and the Warriors. Now, L.A., they are 1 game under 500, taking on Orlando. The Magic are 30 games under 500, 8-38. LA 7-11 away from Staples Center. Orlando's 2-16 at home. 2-16 for the Magic, and they have dropped 3 in a row. I mean, this is a game for the Lakers that I don't want to say must win. You can't stub your toe here. You just can't do it. Lakers go to Miami on Sunday. This is one that you have to grab if you're the Lakers. And they've lost 3 of their past 4. They're 1-4, actually 4 or 5, excuse me, and 1-4 against the spread in that stretch. 3 of those losses coming outright as favorites against the Pacers, the Kings, and the Grizzlies. Lakers get after this Miami, Brooklyn, Philly. You can't mess around here if you're the Lakers, laying 4.5 on the road against a team that's won 2 home games this year. The Clippers and the 76ers. Clippers had that tough overtime loss at Denver a few nights ago. Philadelphia's 26-18. First meeting between these teams this season. Sixers have won 3 of their past 4, 8 of their past 10. Knocked off the Magic back on Wednesday. Joel Embiid had a huge game. Clippers have lost 3 of 4. All 3 of those losses have come on the road. They've dropped 4 in a row on the road. Their last road win came back on New Year's Day at Brooklyn, getting 14 against the Nets, 120 to 116. So the Clippers trying to get back on track on the road at least. They are 7-12 away from Staples this year. Philly only 10-9 at home, which is very interesting because the Sixers used to have a great home court advantage, but it feels like that's slipping away a little bit. We talk Heat and Hawks with Brian Edwards. We'll hit on it really quickly here. And Atlanta, all of a sudden, they've won 2 straight, both at home, both down big at the half, and then came back against Milwaukee and Minnesota. But also double revenge against the Heat. Miami beat them 115-91 in Atlanta 9 days ago, and then beat the Hawks in Miami by 6. So third meeting in less than 10 days for these two teams. Miami coming off wins over Toronto and Portland, and also no Kyle Lowry, no Tyler Hero for the Heat tonight, but the Hawks still laying 1.5 at home. The Blazers and the Celtics in Boston. Celtics routed the Blazers last time they played in Portland, 145-117 back in early December. But Celtics off the loss to the Hornets, Portland off a loss to the Heat, and the Blazers, they've scored 98 and 92 the last 2 games. That's not really good. But Charlotte, they had Boston won 2 straight before the Charlotte loss. Celtics back-to-back unders as well. Celtics, though, they are not great of late at home, 1-3 against the spread. Also, overall, 3-7 against the spread their last 10 games. So the Celtics trying to get back on track, laying a bunch against the Blazers. Bulls and the Bucks from Milwaukee. First meeting between these teams this season. And DeMar DeRozan's pretty much carrying the load since Lonzo Ball is out, as well as Zach LaVine. And the line reflecting it. Milwaukee laying 10.5 here. The Bulls off that win over the Cavs that snapped a 4-game skid. Milwaukee, they bounced back from back-to-back losses by knocking off Memphis 126-114. And the Bucks right now 15-8 at home. Another team that had a great home court advantage. I get regular season, but still Milwaukee, Denver, Atlanta. These teams had really good home, and Philadelphia. It's not really there as much anymore. And the Bulls 12-9 on the road. They're 25-18 against the spread so far this season. Final regular season meeting between the Raptors and the Wizards in D.C. All 3 of the first matchups have stayed under the total. This one at 218.5 at BetMGM. And under 223.5, under 212, under 212.5. Now it's at 218.5. Toronto's won 2 of the first 3 with Washington. Remember, the Wizards dominated the Raptors in the season opener, 98-83 in Toronto. Raptors have won the last 2 meetings, but Toronto has dropped 4 of 5. And also Toronto's 6 straight unders during the span, 98, 99, 103, 87, 95. So they're not really scoring a lot of points. Washington off that 119-118 defeat to Brooklyn 2 nights ago. They dropped 2 of 3 at home. And Washington also on a 4-1 overrun because we know the Wizards, they like to run and not play a lot of defense. The Nets and the Spurs in San Antonio. Brooklyn beat San Antonio at home in overtime earlier this month. And Brooklyn now laying 1.5. Still Kevin Durant on the shelf for the Nets with that knee injury. And the Nets, what's interesting about them, you look back at their last 10 games, they've alternated wins and losses coming off the win at Washington. So they have not put up back-to-back wins in a little bit. Last time they won back-to-back games was Christmas night, and then 2 days later, both in LA over the Lakers and Clippers. So they've not won back-to-back games this month. So something to keep an eye on there. And I see Kyrie Irving is questionable as well. San Antonio, they can't really put together back-to-back wins. Their last 2 off a win, they lost by 19 and by 14. So that's no good. Grizzlies and the Nuggets. Memphis already beat Denver twice at home so far this season in low-scoring games. Now the Nuggets are favored. Denver at 23-20, Memphis 31-16. And Memphis, after that nice winning stretch, they've dropped 2 of 3. All right, still a long season. But the Nuggets, though, they have won now 5 of 7, and the 2 losses coming to the Clippers. That game they blew the 25-point lead in LA and lost by 23 at home to Utah. And Denver, when they played Memphis earlier this season, 2 low-scoring games, 106-97 and 108-106. This total at 224.5 in their third meeting. And both those totals were 215.5 and 216. Pistons and the Jazz, very interesting matchup because Detroit just won at Sacramento, but the Pistons are 4-19 on the road this year. Utah, they are, let me just pull up this number here. The Jazz, 4-13 against the spread their last 17 games. 7 times they were double-digit favorite, didn't cover, and they've lost 4 times outright as a double-digit favorite during the stretch. One of those losses did come at Detroit on their recent road trip for the Jazz. That was, well, let me rephrase that because they played before they played a 2-game road trip. Before their long road trip back in early January, 126-116 defeat at Little Caesars Arena as 10.5-point favorites. Game went over 224. And the Jazz off a 5-point loss to Houston 2 nights ago. And Donovan Mitchell, he is in the concussion protocol, so he may not play tonight, probably won't play. Detroit, though, they've had a lot of blowout losses. They're 2-9 their last 11 on the road. They beat the Kings during this stretch. But besides that, they've lost by 16, 46, 30, 29, 35, 14, and 16. 7 of their 9 road losses during the stretch. So a lot of blowouts there. Utah playing with revenge, but also Utah just trying to get back on track. Rockets and Warriors, last game of the night in the NBA. Golden State off of that, excuse the term, inexcusable loss to Indiana last night. That they were in, I don't want to say in control, but you're 16.5-point favorites against a Pacer team. You're up 8 going into going to halftime. What is Indiana throwing out there last night? Just everybody's out, and you still lost to this team. Steph Curry at 39, didn't score in overtime. Klay Thompson, 0 of 7 from 3. That's not good. Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins went 1 of 13 from 3-point range last night. That is not going to win you a lot of games. So Golden State, they've dropped 4 of 6, and was that 3 and 6 the last 9. So Golden State's hit the skids a little bit of late, 32 and 13. Still pretty good record. Houston, they've won 2 straight. 1 at Sacramento, 1 at Utah. Rockets are going to give you a fight. They don't have a lot of talent, but they'll give you a fight every night. But Warriors are laying 10.5 against Houston. And that's the look at the NBA for this evening. Very busy night. And college basketball, we had talked about Michigan State, Wisconsin, also Illinois, Maryland. Kofi Cockburn, he is out tonight for Illinois. He is in the concussion protocol. So Illinois now laying 4.5 at Maryland. And that's among the games tonight in college basketball and inside the Big Ten. BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. That's right. New customer offer, risk-free first bet up to $1,000. And use the exclusive bonus code VIBONUS. BetMGM is now live in New York. So that is a good thing if you live in the Empire State. And BetMGM, they are offering a welcome bonus for casino and sportsbook new users. Enter the bonus code VIBONUS for a $25 no-deposit free casino game plus a 100% deposit match up to $1,000. Enter VIBONUS on the BetMGM Sportsbook app to receive a $1,000 risk-free bet for your first wager. And BetMGM now, it is available in several states, more than several: Arizona, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, West Virginia, Mississippi, Washington, D.C., Indiana, Pennsylvania, Colorado, Iowa, Virginia, Michigan, Illinois, and Wyoming. So check out BetMGM now for your opportunity to bet with the king of sportsbook. So very much looking forward to that if you are in the state of New York. And again, we love our people at BetMGM, a proud sponsor here of the Daily Insider. I am Kevin Rodgers, and again, my thanks to Brian Edwards for joining us here on the Daily Insider. We'll be back with you on Monday, and Dave Sherapan will join us. We'll talk about the Final Four. We'll know who the last 4 teams are left before we get to the Super Bowl at SoFi Stadium in L.A. And don't forget to look for the Bet and Collect podcast as well. That's coming out later today. We will preview all 4 of the NFL divisional playoff games on there as well. I am Kevin Rodgers. Thanks a lot for watching. And as always, best of luck with your bets.